Hello and welcome back to the Spotlight Games podcast. Today we got some juicy reactions incoming for both season 2 of The Last of Us's latest teaser and a new teaser for Like a Dragon Yakuza coming to Amazon later this year. Plus, we have official word that Avowed has been delayed to 2025. So what does that mean for the rest of Xbox's 2024? We're going to talk about all that and more with my sweet dumpster boy, Cayman Darty. Cayman, how you doing?
I don't have anything to say.
No.
Normally I try to bring some levity to the beginning of our shows. Not that anyone pays attention to the opening of our episodes, but normally I try to. Patrick, I can't get brother. I ain't got shit,
brother. You know, that's okay. We don't always have to have shit to open the show with. However, I do want to open with two things. I want to open with saying hello to Cognitive Clips in the chat, who says beep beep bish. Beep, beep, bish to you as well. Since we last recorded, Cayman, two things happened while we were offline. Can you believe it?
I don't want to.
We got a new follow.
Okay.
Which brought us to our goal of 90 followers that we had set on Twitch. So we hit that. And then that person, Serval 802, I'm probably saying that wrong, gave us a tier 1 month tier 1 sub yesterday. So maybe they'll show up tonight. Maybe they'll show up tomorrow. Maybe they got drunk and just gave a random sub to a channel. Who's to say? I know I'm not. But if you're listening to this either now or later, thanks for the sub. Thanks for the follow. But Cayman, we got a lot of video game stuff to talk about because this is the Spotlight Games podcast where each week we spotlight the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Spotlight Games Pod or by searching for Spotlight Games in your favorite podcast app. And hey, you can be on the show by tuning in as we record live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern time right here on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod, just like the aforementioned Cognitive Clips is, and just like Rabbit128, who is, quote, really looking forward to Halo Season 3. So be sure to follow us so that you're notified when we go live so you can be part of the conversation. If you're live here, we might be live tomorrow, but don't hold your breath. We are flying to New York City very early Thursday morning. So we might be a little too tired, pre-tired, because we're going to have to wake up at probably 6 a.m. So, if you follow us, you'll be notified if we go live tomorrow. But there's also a couple other games that we want to be streaming soon as like a quick little reset as we continue on our Last of Us Part 2 journey. So give us the follow and you'll know when we're playing whatever games those are. And finally, join the Discord. We got a fun little Discord where we discuss what we're playing and generally goof off together about video games. So if that sounds like something you like, click the link in the description of the podcast, whether it be YouTube or podcast service. Click the link in the bio of our socials. It's all PG, I promise, at least in the bio. Join the Discord. In fact, things that happen in the Discord, squatting up to play shit. I'm third time's the charm. I've mentioned him, so he's going to pop out from the bookshelf, Cognitive Clips, looking for a friend to play Tiny Tina's Wonderland. So if you're ever looking for someone to play a game with, jump in the Discord. You'll find somebody maybe if, the stars align. Cayman.
Yes, sir.
We oft start our shows here with what we've been playing. I've been playing stuff. You've been playing stuff. It's the point of the show. Cayman, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you've been playing?
All right, Patrick, I'm going to start us off. Yeah. I'm actually going to, can we jump into the way back machine for a minute?
That's a little AOL dial-up action just happened. Play that.
It's good.
All right, we're back.
We're back. Okay, so if y'all remember back, it's been a while ago. It's been well over a year ago, I think, actually. When we first attempted Fantasy Critic, do you remember this, Patrick?
I do. The first year?
The Fuck Fest, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. My number one game that I attempted that I selected for my fantasy draft was Dying Light 2.
Whoa. Throwing it back. I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah. It was the George Pickens, if you're an NFL person. It was the George Pickens of my draft, where we all thought it was going to be great, and then just maybe wasn't.
Sure.
And so,
is it the quarterback's fault? Is it the coach's fault? Is it George's fault? Who's to say?
Right. And so, is what it is. I picked it, Didn't score really well. It was like a 7. I think it was like, I think got me like 2 points. So it was like in the 70s somewhere.
Sure.
It was a Metacritic. Rumor on the street was that it got better over time.
Apparently pretty buggy at launch.
Right.
From what I remember.
So guess what? Here over a year later, I'm playing it.
There he is.
Patrick, I'm playing it.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of stinks.
No,
it's not. Okay, that was a bit harsh. It's not that it stinks. It's just an interesting thing.
Yeah.
That I'm just not 100% sure was what they were hoping it was going to be.
Do you think the issue, like, because we both liked the first one.
Oh yeah, I love the first Dying Light.
Is it that it just doesn't seem to like change the formula enough? Is it just like what is it about it that you think that's not clicking?
I'll tell you my first complaint. You can't remap the control scheme.
That's tough.
And I'm going to set the stage.
Yeah.
Okay. This game is all about like parkouring and like jumping up buildings and scaffolding. And it's really fast paced. You're dodging zombies, doing all this shit, right? And then the button you need to hit to jump is R1.
Doesn't feel good.
Now, I'm not saying that all control schemes need to be the same.
Sure.
What I am going to say is that the jump button should always be X.
We have come to agree that if you have the button to, like, if it's not going to automatically jump in certain places, you press A or X.
And like, if you, I don't you know what X is though? You ready for this? You know what X is?
Reload.
To use a health kit.
Ooh.
Okay, so just imagine you're playing the game and your brain cannot physically like adjust to the fact that you need to hit R1, so you're constantly hitting X and you're just fucking burning through health kits.
I don't like that.
Why? And the thing is like you can do so much like accessibility wise. The fact that they don't let you change the control scheme is weird. Another thing that caught me off guard, and keep in mind, I'm only a few hours into the game. I'm not super long, and I'll talk about why because I've been playing other things that I have been very excited to talk about.
Cool.
But my problem here is like there's moments in the game, especially early on, where you keep getting flashbacks, and I don't understand if the devs were like, we should make our flashback segments in PlayStation 3 graphics, but they did. And I don't know why. And
How
it's
bizarre.
Weird. And it's one of those things where like I can put this against Dead Island 2, which categorically should be the worst of the two games by a country mile.
You would think. Think.
Absolutely not the case.
Huh. I am actually shocked by that.
Dead Island 2 is a genuinely good game.
Sure.
And I think because of the fact that there was such like not a mystique around it, but such a meme around Dying Light 2 Dead Island 2 because of the fact that it had been so long, we'd seen so many fucking teasers for it, and then it just dropped off the face of the earth, and then delay. Then the game came out, and I don't think a lot of people played it, which is a damn shame because the game's really, really good. This game, I think, is trying to be way more than Dead Island 2 is. And it just doesn't really feel good either.
Yeah.
Like when you're fighting zombies, that's the thing in Dead Island 2. When you're fighting zombies, you lop a limb off. You can like choose where you want to like, crumple shit, right?
Sure.
And it works. It feels chunky and meaty, and it feels good to play. It's exciting to play.
Yeah.
And Dying Light 2, the combat just does not feel good.
Dang, that's a bummer.
And I'm just like, maybe this is a perfect example of like, maybe you don't need to shoot for the moon.
Yeah.
Like, shoot for where you know you're going to land and it's going to be a good game and you're still doing your thing. What I've heard is that it does get better now because you can unlock guns. In the original launch of the game, there were no guns at all.
Really?
So the reason being is it takes place like 15 years after the events of the first game. And so because of that, because it takes place, they're like guns would have already been like used and destroyed. And so like, they're just not there. And it was like a mechanic built in, but then they were like, people were like, hey, this combat kind of sucks without guns.
Right.
And so they gave you guns, and I did like an optional combat thing where like I got to use a gun, and gonna be honest with you, still not great.
Dang.
So I'm gonna keep playing it. I got it for dirt fucking cheap.
Yeah.
So like gonna keep playing it at least until Star Wars Outlaws drops or Cat Quest drops. You know, so like, there's other things that I'm excited about.
Yeah.
This is gonna hold me over until then.
Damn.
Also because of the Dumpster Boys dumpster dives.
Ooh.
I need to have something that wasn't some like out of the dollar bin.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that game. Look, here's the thing. I'm too early in to give you a judgment call on whether you should or shouldn't play the game. What I can say is I'm not impressed so far.
Okay. Yeah. I'm genuinely surprised by that because I remember hearing like mixed things, and a lot of it when it launched was about performance.
Right.
But I feel like it seemed like maybe there was hope that like once that kind of like, like a Days Gone situation, like once that's fixed and cleaned up, like it'll be a lot better. But I guess not for this.
And honestly, it just very well could be that I played the superior game first.
Could be.
Yeah.
Because also, that kind of vibe of a game, I as someone who hasn't touched either game, so take my opinion with a grain of salt, but I feel like the tone and the general vibe of Dead Island just works better for that kind of a game.
It's
like
funny,
the goofier,
it is hilarious game that is there to fulfill your weird fantasies of just like killing zombies, where I don't feel like it's here.
Something you brought up about one of your issues, the lack of being able to adjust controls. I actually had the opposite experience with a game I'm playing.
Okay.
I finished up Dungeons of Hinterberg. I can't remember if I mentioned that last week.
You did, yeah. So you said it had moved up to the top of your games of the year list.
That's right. Yeah, it is my number one at the moment. And so I was like, you know what? Like you, waiting for Outlaws, kind of like jumping between a few things, trying to wrap up like Luigi's Mansion, a few of those kinds of games that I'm just revisiting throughout the weeks. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try out Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, which is a game that I talked about a few weeks back. I played the demo during Steam Next Fest, and I am pleasantly surprised by this game. Like I sung a similar tune during the report after Steam Next Fest, but the game has kind of lived up to my hype from that. Like I had a couple like basic issues with it from the demo that I was kind of like needing some clarity on. And so far, like it's just fun. Like I'm probably 10, 12 hours in, and it is just like a solid 7, 5, maybe an 8. Really fun combat. The kind of connective tissue that I mentioned at the top, its default control scheme is wonky. Like it wants you to melee attack with the right bumper, because I'm playing on Xbox, and then using items would be X. But I just flipped those because it just feels like it felt so forced to try to be attacking, like, because part of the combat, it's like Souls light. It is, I think they're going for kind of a Souls vibe of it, where I talked about last time, there's a reputation system, which is basically their version of Souls. When you're fighting enemies, you accrue reputation. When you kill, stronger enemies, you get more reputation. And their kind of twist on it is a multiplier system, where the longer you go without taking damage, you'll build up this multiplier, and you can cash in the multiplier at any point. So if you just have like a solid run, go through 9, 10 enemies, and your multiplier is at like 110%, and your reputation, like in the bank, is like 2,000 reputation, go ahead and cash in double that and be on your merry way. Or if you get hit, you lose the multiplier and you just get what you've accrued, that like 2,000 in this example. So there's like a fun risk reward system that I think will help with big fans of the genre that might not be as happy with the lack of difficulty, which for me, I really like. I like that this game, it seems to be a more attainable Dark Souls game for people like me who are just bad at that game style. There, and like it isn't totally easy. Like there's some optional bosses that I've come across that feel fucking like they went for the real deal. Like the first one that I came across took me like 25 tries. And then I just got to like the first big boss of the game yesterday, and it's giving a little more soulsy. Like I think this is going to take a few times. but the exploration of the game feels really good. Like it reminds me in ways of Final Fantasy 13, which some people might not vibe with, but it's like kind of like a linear open world where like as you're going through the game, it very clearly wants you to go a specific direction, but at any point you can backtrack and like go look for other stuff. But it's very much like, even though it's giving open world, the areas themselves are quite small. Like every now and then you'll come across an area that feels like a big open world, like city or whatever. Sure. But it's very much like kind of a tailored experience. And I also like that. Like it feels like this is probably going to be like a 20-25 hour experience. And so it's like right in the pocket for me, waiting for Outlaws of
right.
I'll probably have this game finished by then. You know, the story is what it is. Like I'm not, sometimes I'm skipping through some dialogue if it feels superfluous, but yeah, I'm genuinely kind of surprised at how much I'm enjoying this game because it's not remarkable. It's just good. But it goes back to the conversation that we have kind of been having over the course of several months. We're like, good game is good. And like there needs to be a space for this like kind of B tier video game, and especially with it being on Game Pass, like if you have that, no harm, no foul if you don't like it. So yeah, sure. I definitely recommend if you have it, give it a shot. I think I could be misremembering. I think it's a $40 title retail.
That sounds that either 30 or 40, yeah.
Which I think is the perfect price for this game. Like yeah, it's checking a lot of boxes. So yeah, I'm having a good time. And it's the kind of game too where like if I don't hit credits, that'll be totally fine by me. Like I have that feeling of like work's over. If Rose isn't playing a game, I want to hop in and play a little bit, or maybe I'll like cloud stream on the Steam Deck or something. But pleasantly surprised with Flintlock. Also, really quick, I skipped over on accident. Pixie Gaming in the chat. If you're still here, thanks for being here, Pinksy. Good to have you. But Cayman, anything that I just said about Flintlock, did like any needles moving for you on that game?
Yeah, I think when we talked off air about this when you first started playing it, and you were like, this would be a great game for you when it like drops in price, so you don't feel as burdened or saddled up burdened with the price point of that if you don't vibe with it. Which to me, it's like, okay, cool, yeah, like that sounds interesting. It does posit a question that I've been thinking a lot about, and this kind of came off the heels of playing Immortals of Avium. Funny enough, where the platinum run on Immortals of Avium requires you to beat the game on the hardest difficulty. And the hardest difficulty to me, like, wasn't that difficult. But it definitely added a challenge enough that you had to be at least good at the game. Like, you couldn't just like, brute force your way through it. You had to keep moving. You really had to abide by the rules of the game, right? Which I feel like that's something that a Souls game does really well, where it's like, we're not going to adjust the difficulty for you, even though I've been very critical of the fact that like games need to have difficulty scales. Even a sliding scale, I think, is even better, honestly. Instead of like a traditional one. But the way that I think Souls games work is just like, look, we're not going to give you any grace. Everything is going to be hard. There's no plus or minus, right? With Immortals of Avium, I beat the game and I realized like, wow, this game is actually really easy on the lowest difficulty setting. When I went back to do my cleanup, because you can drop the difficulty after you beat the game when you get access to the open world again.
Oh, cool.
Because you pop the trophy for the difficulty setting, and then you can drop back down and continue to do the game in a lower difficulty. So I did that to clean up, like just so it was easier for me not to have to stress every encounter.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this game's really easy. But then the thing is, I had this thought where I was like, I feel like if I were to do like 100% the game on the easiest difficulty and then play the game on the hardest difficulty, I would have given up.
Oh, interesting. Why do you say that?
Because I feel like adjusting from the easiest difficulty for an entire game to then move up into a higher difficulty is a harder adjustment than just starting the game off as the easiest, or the hardest difficulty right off the bat. Because you're essentially throwing yourselves to the wolves, being like, I have to learn how to play this game, the way the game wants me to play it. And then dropping down, it's like, oh, this is easy. But if I were to change that up, which circled all the way back around to Flintlock. You had mentioned that, like, yeah, the game is not difficult, but there are optional bosses that will kick your damn teeth in.
Mm-hmm.
So then my thing is that better or worse?
I think,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I see where you're. I don't know. I kind of feel like it's better. You know what this reminds me of actually is the God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok, of like the game. You know, it has its difficulty settings, and if you want to just go on easy, you can. But then within the game itself, it has it. You know, if you're playing on normal, the Valkyries is that like extra challenge, totally optional. You can like if you're really vibing with the game, you want 100% it, you want to get the platinum, you can go for that extra challenge to fight the Valkyries. You know, with the Valkyries, you can still drop it to easy, but those things are still hard on easy.
Oh, no, I really think the Valkyries are one set difficulty across the board.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly feels like it. I've never tried them on their hardest difficulty, but I don't know how they can be much harder than they are. Right. But yeah, I kind of like that idea of like, let the player play on their own terms, whether that's easy, medium, or hard. And then if they want a little bit extra because they're liking the game enough or they just like a challenge, let's throw in these optional things for them to go. And, you know, there be a reward there. Like when that one boss that the optional one in Flintlock, finally beat it after like 45 minutes and 2 days and got like great loot out of it and like a new gun. And so, yeah, I like that feeling of being rewarded for going for the challenge, essentially. Schmatz in the chat says, I had to treat the Valkyries like a Souls boss. LOL. No, for real. Like they're
100%. Yeah.
Especially the final Valkyrie is like one of the hardest boss fights I think I've ever played in video games. Yeah. This is, you know, as someone who didn't play more than like 2 hours of Elden Ring, but yeah, fucking hard. Those they feel so good when you win.
Right. And I think that's the whole thing with like Elden Ring, that like it kind of works, like the difficulty works in a Souls game. It feels oppressive, and that's part of the narrative, is also being oppressive. It was just an interesting, because I've always been anti difficulty related trophies, because I'm like, no, if you want to do it, like give me a trophy. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Difficulty related shit is a lot of times artificial. That's why I hate difficulty related trophies. It's why I honestly think, as I'm getting past Elden Ring, I'm honestly like more okay with Elden Ring, the way that Elden Ring, like Souls games, are structured like that. I'm feeling more okay with it compared to something like playing a game that is just, you turn every enemy encounter into a nuisance because it is bullet sponge enemies, or just spongy, and you take so little, you can't take any damage, and it removes any element of like strategy and just puts on an annoyance. And I feel like that's where we developers fuck up.
Yeah.
It's like, no, why would I want to do, like, that's not fun to me. But like, if it's built in, like baked in, like, oh, like Borderlands, I think does a great job too, where it's like, there is no difficulty in Borderlands, but you have encounters that you're like, no, I have to be super higher level to be able to take this on. And I need to probably have 4 people to do it with me. Like, that's fun. Not the other.
When a game's like design is able to showcase difficulty growth, I think that's a testament to the power of good video game developers. Cayman, before we jump into the news, any other games you've been playing?
Yeah, man, I would love to go ahead and take a little bit of time to talk about the Dumpster Boys Dumpster Dive.
Let's do it.
Where
are we starting?
We need a jingle.
We do need a jingle. Who out there is jingle worthy? Who can put together a little jingle for us about?
Could just be sound effect of a bunch of hot dogs.
Ooh,
slapping the ground.
Like a scream in the background, an explosion.
Right. We need a jingle for this. So, Dumpster Boys, Dumpster Dives, as we've discussed on previous episodes, let's just go ahead and recap for you if you've missed out before. But basically, this is where I highlight some games that I got for dirt fucking cheap from a developer that you've most likely never heard of, and for games that you probably also have never heard of, but they turn out to either be a hidden gem or total dog shit. I'm going to tell you whether or not it's worth giving your couple of bucks.
Yes.
And I really think after I've done this a few times, I really think I want to just highlight games that are good. So if you are like, hey, I've only got $5 to my name, but I want to really a game that's going to be fun, right?
Yeah.
Where do I put my $5 at? You know, or I think even more important is if you have like a gift card, like a PSN gift card, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, shit, I've got like I bought my game, but I still have like $5 left over. What do I do with it? Here,
go to Dumpster Boys, Dumpster Dives.
Boom. All right, I'm going to start off with this game from 2018 called Sagebrush, Patrick.
Let's go. Add it to the stage.
Sagebrush is from Redact Games. It's very interesting. I looked up the developer. It's one guy. It's single guy named Nate Rennis, I think is his name. Either way, there's a handful of games underneath like the Redact label. This is the only one I've played, so I can't testify to anything else. But what I can say that this is a horror with an asterisk because it's not really horror, but it is horror enough, I think, or horror adjacent maybe.
Okay.
It is a glorified walking simulator.
Okay.
And the hook to this game, Patrick, not only is it lo-fi, so like PlayStation 1 graphics, which are amazing for this game, but the game, the walking simulator is essentially you are following the aftermath. You're coming back some years later to basically uncover some secret about a cult that is out in the desert. And you will uncover audio logs and notes that are written from members of the cult to each other. The thing here, though, is that it feels very true crime. And I think the reason why it really excels in that regard is because the game, a lot of the stuff you see in this game is based entirely off of real things that have happened with real cults.
Whoa, I didn't realize that. That's
cool. It is if you're into true crime, if you're into like this, like cults and shit, which I don't know why I have like authority issues, so I can never actually be in a cult, but I really love the idea of like cults in general for some reason.
Yeah.
I love cult movies, not cult movies, but movies about cults, you know, Wicker Man, the original.
I mean, you were what's his fuck for Halloween one year.
I was Jim Jones and for Halloween. Yeah. And there's references to like events that happen in Jonestown that are recreated in the game. It's really cool. It takes about, honestly, if you just bypass literally every single thing, which I don't recommend, you can do this in less than 30 minutes. If you are looking to get the full experience, you want to see everything, and it's got a platinum tied to it if you play it on PlayStation. It takes about an hour to 2 hours to like make it through the whole thing. But game's really cool, man. It's really fucking creepy. And there's this feeling to this game that we'll talk about more with the next game too, because this is really important. But like that first time you watch Blair Witch as a kid, you know, and like there's something that dings in the back of your brain that's like, this is a forbidden tape. We should not be allowed to see this.
Sure.
It needs to go to the FBI. It reminds me of the story of Charlie Sheen, coked out of his brain. He got a VHS copy of a Guinea Pig, Flower, Flesh, and Blood, which I have a copy somewhere behind me on my shelf. He watches the movie, right? And he's like, I just witnessed a murder.
Whoa.
So he takes it to the literal closest FBI headquarters and drops it off. And the FBI is like, yeah, we probably should investigate this.
Turns out it's just a movie.
If you watch it now, you're like, dude, this is the fakest looking shit I've ever seen. But like, that's the kind of sensation you get when playing a game like this. And I think that's what makes this type of game really cool.
Cool.
So I would say Sagebrush, like I said, I picked it up for $4.99. I don't think it's cost any more than that, to be completely honest with you. I don't think it's any more expensive than $4.99. You could just get it for $4.99. So highly recommend checking it out, especially if you're a true crime fan. Like I said, hour to 2 hours. If you go and explore the entire farm and you look for everything, you're gonna be fucking like absolutely sucked into this game. It is captivating as hell.
Before we go on to your second game, I do want to share one quick Google review that just made me almost buzzed out laughing from Katie 11 months ago. She says, Sagebrush regularly does not answer the phone during business hours. They state they're open at 11 a.m. I called multiple times between 11:40 to 11:55 with no answer. This is very poor business, and it's unfortunate because I enjoy the food. Answer the phones or get better help. But it's like, this seems to be... there's so many reviews about there being poor service, but it's the game's review page.
A Google reviews from Patrick.
There's someone, great jingle. There's someone out there that runs a business called Sagebrush that fucking sucks. And they just don't have a good Google footprint.
They don't. But here's the thing, Patrick. They don't know they're doing poorly because they don't see the reviews.
That's so.
It's all this poor developer who's like, man, no one's playing my game because the reviews suck.
That's hilarious.
That's why.
Also, we got Bennett UA in the chat. Hang horror. Thanks for being here, Bennett.
Yeah.
And last thing before we move to your final game, because this one I'm very excited to hear about. Yeah. Cognitive Clips asks if you've seen the movie Faults, or I assume it's a movie. He says, Cayman, you seen Faults?
Faults? It's not ringing any bells, but I also watch a movie. I average one movie a day.
Okay.
So Jordan, God knows, maybe. Send me a link and I'll look it up and tell you if I have. All right, Patrick, next one I want to talk about, and this one I'm the most excited about. I even went onto my other Discord that we have, just set up for like Dead by Daylight, and yelled at all of my friends there and said, guys, play this fucking game. This game is called Bloodwash.
Ooh. First of all, great title.
Bloodwash is fucking astounding. It's by Torture Star Videos, which is a subsidiary, I believe, or like a sister company to Puppet Combo. They're known for making horror games that are lo-fi. So PlayStation 1 graphics, but they also do more than that. They also have games that are designed to be like 8-bit. So like games that you would play. One of the games I think that just came out recently, or maybe is about to come out, is like, what if Friday the 13th on the SNES didn't suck? We made a game, and if I'm not mistaken, too, they also release physical versions, a lot of their games as well, so you can play them on those consoles, which is fucking amazing. So this game, Bloodwash, it is also kind of similar to a walking simulator, but I would say less so, more of like an investigative game. But then, don't worry, there's actual moments at the end of the game where you're going to be having to do shit. You have weapons at the end of the game, okay? The game is a fucking wild ride. Basically, you play as a woman who has a job interview in the morning, and in her decrepit, shitty apartment, they have the washer and dryer have busted. So you need to go to just right on the outskirts of town. You got to go to a laundromat and do some laundry. While you're there, you uncover a mystery about the womb ripper, a person who attacks pregnant women. And guess what, baby? You're pregnant.
Oh, yeah, of course.
What occurs over the course of this 2-hour-long game is some of the most magical shit I've experienced in a very long time.
The B-roll looks really good.
It is. It's another one of those, I shouldn't be playing this game because this game is haunted. This game is cursed. My life is now cursed because I played a cursed game. That is how you feel. It is. The jump scares are so bad, but they're so effective.
Yeah.
And the way that they do it, you can tell that the devs here really understand games like Silent Hill 2.
Sure.
They really understand things like the original Resident Evil games of like how to set up a proper jump scare where it is legitimately is going to get you.
Yeah.
But because it's lo-fi, you know, with a huge grin on your face, like, God, they really got me with that. That's what the fuck. There's so many little hidden Easter eggs, and they're really cool. You can pick up comic books throughout the game and like read comics. There's little games like little mini games you can play, little arcade games that are super profane. So this game I don't think could be played on Twitch unless you just skipped those games because they're like penises. Very funny. Very funny.
Someone's got to see it.
The other thing, and I was telling Patrick this live, there's a trophy related to watching the television, and they literally on the television play the trailer for Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bowl-orama, which is one of our favorite trash cinema films, starring one Linnea Quigley. But it's that kind of love and reverence for like trash cinema and the like PlayStation 1 era of horror games, where it's like, yes, it's weird and kind of janky, but at the same time, it's also really well polished.
Yeah.
And works really well, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. And you could speed run this game. Not even kidding. You can speed run this game and probably beat it in about 30 minutes, mainly because 20 minutes is you have to real time wait on your laundry to get done.
Amazing.
Which is really funny. And because of that, it does entice you to explore, pick up evidence, and unravel the mystery of like who the womb ripper is, which the twist ending is fucking amazing as well. And honestly, like, guys,
this is the most Cayman-ass Cayman fucking bullshit.
It really
looks so good.
And I'm like beyond excited to share it. I think this is why I love this. I like doing the dumpster dives is because I can share with you guys something that I had no idea existed.
Yeah.
But
how'd you find this?
I literally found it on sale for $2.99.
Cool.
And I was like, this looks like a trash cinema game. So
Turns
I was like, turns out it fucking was.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I have to find every single one of these games. Not all of them have been ported. All the games are initially launched on Steam and then get ported to console after that. This one came out in 2023. What it seems like, from what I can tell online, is that they're porting faster. Okay. They have a Patreon page where you can go support the devs there. Cool. They have a merch page. You can buy physical copies of the games and put them in your PlayStation.
That's so cool.
That kind of level of interactivity, I think, is amazing. I legitimately, Patrick, cannot say this might end up being my game that didn't come out this year. That is my game of the year. This could potentially be that game.
That's awesome.
Like, that's how much I love it. I really, really, really recommend everyone go play this game. Terry, if you're in the chat right now, just don't play the mini games. Play this on Twitch. I will watch every second of it.
Hell yeah. This kind of trash cinema subgenre of video games that you have stumbled into is begging to be streamed by you.
I mean, I really feel like it has to. I really feel like the Dumpster Boys Dumpster Dives needs to make it a Twitch eventually.
I think so too. This looks great. We need to reach out to this developer and see if they want to talk on Spotlight Games, because
yes, 100% yes.
I was scrolling through both Torture Star
videos and then Puppet
Combo. And yeah, there's some crazy looking games in both lineups, and I'm definitely gonna pick up at least one of them. A good meaty, dare I say beefy report on what we've been playing. But Cayman, we got some video game news in the form of TV shows. A long-standing tradition on this show. The adaptations to both TV and film that interest us of video game franchises that we love, we like to talk about. And there's two of them, one already out, one coming out for the first time in the coming months. Both got trailers within the last week or so. So we're going to live react to them right now. Cayman, do you want to start with Like a Dragon Yakuza or The Last of Us Part 2 Season 2?
Let's start with Yakuza, Like a Dragon. Like a Dragon Yakuza. However they decide to do it now.
Yeah. Great. So we're going to watch the trailer live and give our reactions to it. So buckle up.
Patrick, do you think we should get back tats?
I already have appointments for both of those.
Fuck yeah, Dragon style, baby.
It looks kind of sick.
Dude.
Like, it's very much vibes. Like, if it's a minute, 2 seconds, probably like 35, 40 of those seconds is just applying the tattoo. But those little slivers that we get, especially toward the end of the trailer, like kind of showing, lots of like club vibe in the Yakuza franchise. And then there's that one shot, this one right there of who I assume is Kiryu just going to town in the ring on somebody. What are you, as resident Yakuza boy? What's your vibe here?
So the first thing I can say is, based on like what you can see in the background, this 100% takes place in the 80s. Okay. Which the first Yakuza game, that's so when you get to Infinite Wealth and Kiryu comes back, he's old. Like he's an old man. He's in his 60s, late 60s, or probably late 60s. So the game starts in the 80s. So I'm glad that they're doing that, because I think that like the vibe of Japan in the 80s is such like a really cool unexplored, like, period piece that I don't think we see a lot of. What we see there, definitely think that this is going to be, I don't think it's going to be a lot of what I think a normal person is going to expect. These games can be like super heavy.
Yeah.
But they're also, and this is what I hope, and we don't see any of it, and I'm glad they're not showing it right now, is like, and I'm hoping it's there, really has to be there is like how goofy the series can get.
Yeah.
And so
I polled the audience on Instagram, and that was the resounding theme. Schmatz, who's in the chat, wrote in on Instagram and said, God, I hope they incorporate the goofy side stories into the Yakuza show somehow. And he says in the chat here, give me an episode where Kiryu runs a host club. Like I feel like there's got to be some sort of reference, and so like there's going to be karaoke at some point, I would think. Right?
Yeah. It can't be. And I think that's the thing is like this trailer, it looks super serious.
Yeah, it does.
And I hope for my sake and the fans of the series, and I think that's the thing, is like I hope for the fans that we do get the goofy stuff, that we do get Kiryu running a host club, that we have that we have the man babies, that we have, some of the weird shit, because Yakuza's weird as fuck, dude. I want to see Kiryu beat a man to death with a bicycle, right? Like that's the kind of stuff I want to see. My thing is I don't know how that's going to resonate with like the normal audience,
I can't help but wonder if that vibe thematically from the eyes, like in the eyes of the producers, only works in a video game. Like I wonder if for them it's like, well, we got to make a gritty crime drama about this, Japanese gang. I wonder if they're going to go that route. I hope they don't. But
here's the thing, though, is that the games are gritty crime dramas,
right?
With funny ass shit that you can do alongside them, and that's I think why the series is what it is and how it's become so popular. Because we look at something like True Crime. Remember those games?
Oh yeah,
fucking,
Streets of LA.
Streets of LA. I mean, Sleeping Dogs technically like spun off of it.
That's right.
And as much as I think Sleeping Dogs is like the unsung hero of open world games from the PlayStation 3 generation, I do think that those games suffer because they didn't have that levity. I think you can balance it. And I think if you balance it, you do it right. Like this could be one of those shows that's so different than everything else. Then like people are going to eat this shit up.
Yeah. So it's coming to Amazon. And one thing that I find interesting about it that, they don't, make necessarily clear from the trailer is this is being like completely produced in Japan. Like it's not like an American studio or American house doing it.
We're getting it. We're getting goofy shit.
From what I remember of the original press release through like the Hollywood Reporter or whatever, Amazon like bought this from somebody in Japan that essentially filmed this. So like I also wouldn't be surprised if it kind of gives low budget at first. And then if it's successful season 2, just blowing it out of the fucking water with Jeff Bezos bucks.
If this is like all done in Japan, right? And Amazon bought it out of Japan and this was done in Japan, we are going to get goofy shit in this.
I hope so.
Because if you look at like some of the most prolific directors out of Japan, like Takashi Miike, is like that's his trademark style. And a lot of his trademark style is what influenced those games.
Cool.
It's big. And also these games are massive in Japan.
So big.
So like if they're doing that, then I would hope that they're doing their audience a like service by doing this like this. The Americans are gonna have to just grow the fuck up and learn how to enjoy shit that's not fucking hyper, bullshit like what we're about to talk about.
Deep cut. Let's talk a little bit about The Last of Us Part 2. We got, as they are wont to do over at HBO, aka Max. One of their big premiere show, House of the Dragon, ended this past Sunday this season. And so to open up the episode, they did their like mid-year sizzle reel to talk about all the shit that they want us to be excited about. We got, White Lotus, we got the Penguin, we got, all sorts of stuff. And then it ended with like 30 seconds of Last of Us Season 2 footage that we're about to watch and give you our reactions to.
Did you hurt her? Then what? What did you do?
I saved her. Look at that.
Patrick.
Look at that, Cayman. What do you think?
I think that I'm very.
You're very on it.
When we rolled out of doing the Spotlight TV.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Rest in peace.
That short-lived thing we did for a bit. Mm-hmm. One of the big things is like talking about like where do we think the show goes next? Where do we think not where does it go next? We know where it goes next, but how do they broach that? We are seeing a lot of scenes from late game in The Last of Us Part 2. And
I mean, I feel like it's a bit of a mix right now of if we're getting like 10 images, it seems like maybe like 5 and 5 are kind of early to versus later. Like the stuff with Isaac, aka Jeffrey Wright, that's probably a bit later. This is the very opening shot of in the like the barn. That's a later game moment. What I'm most interested about, Cayman, is that we're right out the gate getting new character Catherine O'Hara. I think that's a kind of an interesting, bold direction to give us our first look at the series of showing someone that we kind of have no clue who they're going to be. And I also kind of before when I was prepping for the show, I watched this like 6 times in a row, just thinking like, who could she be? And we just don't get enough to really, I have no idea still who
she's like when we saw Melanie Linsky. How do you say her last name? I always get her last name. That's how you say it.
Yeah. To my understanding, it's Melanie Linsky.
Linsky. Got it. Yeah. I hate that last name. That's a shitty last name. It was the same thing with her, though. We knew that she was going to be in the show. We didn't know who the fuck she was. She was a brand new character.
Yeah.
This feels like that's how this is going to be. My thing is there's one particular scene I want to talk about in this, Patrick, where we see Lev.
Is that who that is, or is that just a Seraphite?
No, that has to be.
Let me see. Let me pause on it because I don't know that we've gotten official.
Okay, maybe it's not Lev.
I think it's just a random Seraphite, personally.
Okay, but still though, by the time we see those particular characters in the game, that is Abby's story in Seattle, and it's late in Abby's story in Seattle. So my thing is that what we have been seeing, and I reference this because this is like the overgrowth and in the trees that you have to like sneak through.
Sure.
And if it's not, and this is Ellie's portion.
Well, also I think of it this way. I hear you in terms of like this, and like with it being nighttime, like, Rose and I streaming Last of Us Part 2, we went through like the night portion with the Seraphites like 2 weeks ago, and we're pretty far into the game. We are certainly in like the second half, not quite to the final third, but like we're a good portion in. I wouldn't be surprised though if for season 2, because it's only going to be 7 episodes. They've not said like how they're treating like the time jumping of the second game, but I wouldn't be surprised because this is TV if they just give us more Seraphite stuff in general from the jump, just to like introduce them. And it could be no name shit, like just showing the WLF like and the Seraphites having like a scuffle. It could be, or maybe this could be some more kind of late game stuff that they're already showing us. I hope that it's them just adding in a little flair, because if we're already getting late game stuff this in season 2, I have questions about like what the time jump nature is going to look like, because yeah, I don't know. That's a good point though, of like this, you don't see a ton of them in that first chunk of the game. That's for sure.
We know that, and I guess is the one thing we need to like take into consideration and remember is that we know that Ellie has the tattoo.
Yeah.
Like Ellie has the tattoo at the beginning of The Last of Us Part 1, before everything else hits the fan. She already has the tattoo. So I don't feel like that's necessarily a giveaway of like what we're going to get. I don't think they're going to open season 2 the way that the game opens.
Sure.
I still believe that we are going to get a big finale.
Could be.
And so what they could potentially do is that they're just kind of bouncing around, doing little bits and bobs here and there of like introducing, like we might not see Ellie and Abby meet at any point until the very end of the second season, and we get both stories happening concurrently. That could very well be the case. I wouldn't be upset with that.
No, I wouldn't either. Right. This is the only shot we get of Abby in this quick little teaser, and this is kind of right before the moment you're talking about. Like this is the part that leads into that, which is very, very early in the game. But yeah, I mean, it could certainly be a late season type arc, because something that we've
seven episodes. Patrick.
Yeah, it is a bit short, and that I think really at first when you first posited that theory of, you know, we won't blatantly spoil the thing, but like the inciting incident of the game essentially happens pretty early on. You know, that's the nature of an inciting incident. It's what sets the story off. When you said that you thought that would be like the season 1 finale, I was like, no fucking way. That's just not how stories work. Like the whole purpose of the game is that thing. And when I heard that it's going to be 7 episodes, like, actually maybe Cayman could be right about that, and they just shift around the timeline a little bit to get us to that point, because 7 episodes last season we had 9, and now dropping 2 episodes, that's a pretty massive jump in terms of TV.
And you also have to remember, Patrick, that they're not playing, this isn't a video game, this is a TV show now, right? And the way that this works is there's going to be a season 3,
right?
They want people to come back for season 3. If you do that, a lot of people are coming from one reason and one reason only. Spoilers, like I'm not going to address, but like the inciting incident throws things up in the air. It's topsy-turvy, right? And I think because of that, it doesn't make sense to do the story the way that the video game works. If you set that up as the finale, then people are now interested in tuning in for season 3 to see what happens next. And I think that's why. There's this scene though too where it looks
I don't know what
Ellie's
this is. Like
pregnant.
This is well, yeah, I mean, she looks like she's in some sort of like hospital bed. I don't know what this is, unless it's like a dream sequence or something. This is certainly not from the game that I know, unless I'm forgetting something. But I'm just excited that we're finally getting some looks into season 2. It's got big shoes to fill because season 1 was so critically acclaimed. You know, it was up against the final season of Succession, so it didn't really win an award season. But you know, if they can knock season 2 out of the park, I think there could potentially be a lap for award season. But we're just gonna have to wait and find out. Cayman, I'll tell you one thing that's not going to be anywhere in video game award season this year, and that's Avowed. One of my picks in the Fantasy Critic League has officially been delayed. So this is just, I'm pulling straight from Xbox's Twitter. They say, so many games coming. As such, we're moving Avowed to February 18th, 2025 to give players backlogs some breathing room. Stay tuned for more from our games across Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, and Xbox Game Studios at Gamescom, including our August 23 live stream for a look at Avowed. So on this graphic that they shared, they kind of give us their stable with the dates that they want to share, and then, you know, just general years outside of that. So we got World of Warcraft's newest expansion later this month, Age of Mythology Retold on September 4th, Ara History Untold on September 24th, Diablo 4's expansion October 8th, Black Ops 6 October 25th, Flight Simulator November 19th, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, TBA 2024, Starfield Shattered Space, that expansion, TBA 2024, and Towerborn, TBA 2024, with now Avowed, South of Midnight, Doom, The Dark Ages, and Fable being their key 2025 games, Avowed of which being the only one with a date. Cayman, looking at this graphic, knowing that Avowed is now pushed to next year, and, you know, on this very show, Cayman, we felt like Avowed had much more of a chance to come this year. We weren't necessarily confident either, but we assumed that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle would be the one pushed to next year. My first question is, do you think that Indiana Jones can actually still hit this year now that Avowed's been pushed out? Or do you think that one's also going to get the boot?
Well, the alleged reason that Avowed was pushed back to February was to give Indiana Jones breathing room.
Okay.
Honestly, the more I sat on it after the Xbox showcase over Summer Games Fest, I actually really was like, yeah, Avowed's the one getting pushed.
Huh, okay.
And I think the reason being was I think the first time that we saw gameplay of Avowed, I was like, wow, okay, this looks polished. But then when we saw more during the Summer Games Fest, I was like, oh, I got a lot of strong feelings, and they aren't great.
Okay.
which made me think that I didn't think it was as polished or as ready, even though they showed more gameplay.
Sure.
And I think the reason that I felt that way was because they most likely took a vertical slice to show something and were like polished as fuck in this one little thing. So we show you a brief clip.
Sure.
And then what they showed us with more was like, we need to show you more portions of this.
Yeah.
And what we ended up getting from that left me feeling like this game wasn't, that we were probably looking at a beta version.
Okay.
If not even partial alpha.
So do you think that maybe they want to give players backlog some breathing room as like a half truth of like, we want to give it some breathing room, but also it needs a little more zhuzh before it hits.
I don't know if it necessarily needs some more zhuzh. I just think dropping it in December would be a terrible fucking idea.
Sure. Because, yeah, the last time, so a couple weeks ago, I don't think we talked about it on the show, but there was a leaked GameStop post, fuck that company, but with that, it was like November 18th was the leaked date. And Xbox did not, oftentimes when that happens, if it's the real date, the studio will come out and be like, oh, cat's out of the bag, that you're going to have Avowed in your hands November 18th. And we didn't hear anything for weeks. So I, having them on my team, we're talking to our general manager, we're talking to our recruiter to figure out what's going to replace Avowed in our lineup for this year. But I was concerned that this was going to be pushed. But I still feel like, as much as I want to be like the one that's always like, but Xbox, they're trying their best. Sometimes they give us a hit. I still don't buy that Indiana Jones comes this year. And so then I look at the rest of their 2024 and I'm like, this ain't good.
This ain't good, brother.
We got 2 like strategy games in Aura and Age of Mythology, if I understand how Aura works. I looked at some screenshots. It looks like it's like a city builder strategy type thing.
Right.
World of Warcraft, a PC expansion. I understand why they're saying it on this because Xbox owns them, but like this ain't an Xbox game. Diablo 4 expansion.
To Xbox, so.
Right. Diablo 4 expansion, just, it has its fan base. I'm sure they're excited, but for you and me, it means nothing.
Right.
Call of Duty, same thing. It has their fan base, one of the biggest fan bases in the world, but this is not an us game. Flight Simulator, good for them. And then Shattered Space, I do expect that to come this year, and I admittedly don't know what Towerborn is. So like maybe that one is shocking to me, but
was very curious if you knew what the fuck Towerborn was.
I don't think I've ever heard of
I don't know anything about this shit.
Let's do a quick Google search.
My question is, Patrick, let's say hypothetically Indiana Jones does drop. When?
I mean, what you said a minute ago about Avowed being dropped in December is a terrible idea. I agree. And I think dropping any game in December is a bad idea.
Awful idea.
It just, if a game comes out in December, it's either an indie game and that's what worked best for them, or they don't expect to get a good return on it. And they just hope that maybe it catches lightning in a month that people don't release games in. So it has to be November, because it sure as shit ain't going to be October, because if an Indiana Jones game from Bethesda Studios, Machine Games, was coming out in October, you're sure as shit we would know about it by now, and we would be getting all sorts of trailers and previews and things. I don't even think we've had a single preview of this game.
Everything that they've shown so far has been in some sort of showcase.
No way we're getting it this year.
So here's my thing. One might say, like, fucking just dump it right at the same time as Flight Simulator. It's not like you're probably going to have too much crossover. Well, yes, that's actively true. Like, it feels like you're fucking over the people who worked on Flight Simulator, and Flight Simulator always scores very well with the critics and kind of wins you a little bit of a bump on like we put out games that are critically acclaimed too, Yeah. My thing is, I don't believe you can drop it in November, because there's no fucking way that you're going to be able to drop it anywhere near Call of Duty Black Ops 6, because for a fact that the audience that's playing Call of Duty is the same audience playing Indiana Jones.
They hope so.
The only thing I could think is that there's a world in which the way that Xbox now looks at I don't know, gaming in general with Game Pass is that like we don't care as much if we cannibalize ourselves, because it's baked into what you're paying for already.
Sure.
But then at the same time, you would assume that Game Pass, like Black Ops, will drive Game Pass, right?
Yeah.
So if you're just going to get 1 month of Game Pass just to play Call of Duty right out of the gate for a month, which could very well be the case, you can't release Indiana Jones within that same month.
Or what's the date on Black Ops 6? Do you know off the top of your head?
October 25th, 2024. It's on the screen.
I went to go Google it, and it's right in front of me. That doesn't quite work. I was going to say, or you get someone to get Game Pass for the month to get Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Ideally, they're hoping that they let that go and, they don't cancel it. They get 6 months out of them if they aren't going to be someone that just sticks around all year with Game Pass. But then it's like, okay, I've been playing Call of Duty Black Ops nonstop for 2 months. Let's see what else is on there. Oh, Indiana Jones just dropped. I wonder if there's if in their data statistics planning, if there is like a sweet spot after something as big as Call of Duty drops, when is best to release the next big thing. Like, the only other game this year that would even come somewhere near Black Ops from a like excitement standpoint was Starfield. And I can't remember off the top of my head if there was like a big release from Xbox shortly after Starfield. But yeah, I don't know. I think you might be onto something though about like they're just hoping to get people to get Game Pass. And so I wonder if their hope is we get 10 million new people on Game Pass, even if only 2 million of them stick around. That's another 2 million people that might play Indiana Jones. So if we drop it at the beginning of December, maybe we have enough people now from October to give this game a shot, and maybe
keep it tacked on until February.
Yeah, and maybe with it being an IP as big as Indiana Jones, even though I would argue the kids don't give a fuck about Indiana Jones. Maybe that IP is big enough that it could succeed in December. I don't know.
I think you might be onto something, but I think that there might be a nuance there that we might be missing. Whereas, could this be set up to be if they say, hey, we're dropping this on, I don't know, going to spit right out of my ass. Ooh, December 12th. Okay. I don't know where I got that date from, but let's just say,
let's say
December 12th. What you could do is you could say like, hey, that money you got during Christmas? Oh, you're going to buy yourself a Christmas present? Oh, you want to get your significant other a Christmas present? Well, aren't they an Indiana Jones fan? Don't they like Harrison Ford? Actually, it's Troy Baker, but it looks like Harrison Ford.
Does.
They'd be like, okay, well, great. Well, then you should get them a subscription to Game Pass. You could sell it as like a Christmas present.
Sure.
I don't like it. I really don't. I really think that like this odd condensed schedule.
Yeah.
I don't love it. And it really gives me pause on the remaining games that are still listed there. Once again, don't know what the fuck Towerborn is.
Yeah, I Googled it. It looks like actually, let me share that tab instead. It's giving like Genshin-y, but like it looks to be maybe turn-based in its screenshots, perhaps.
Interesting. Almost looks like Dragon's Crown.
Oh, a little bit, yeah. But yeah, let's see. If I jump over to the all tab, just see if there's a quick wheel power. No,
upcoming side-scrolling action adventure.
Huh.
Terrible. I hate it. Well, that's not going to sell a console, and that's not going to sell Game Pass outside of like maybe like 4 people.
Oh yeah, no, that won't move the needle for sure.
It's not. So that one you can probably scrub, but like going back to something like Starfield, when the fuck do you release that?
I think that Starfield probably hits in November, and Indiana Jones is pushed to like January, and then that gives a month, maybe 5 weeks before Avowed, so that because we expect Indiana Jones to probably be a 10-15 hour experience coming from Machine Games,
right?
And if it's not February, maybe it's March. But I just don't. Yeah, I don't see a path forward for Indiana Jones Actually, now that I'm, as we've talked about this, Indiana Jones and Starfield specifically, I feel like butt heads of, they're very different. One is in space, one is like 1930s adventure, but with it being first person, with it being that adventure-y game, and also Bethesda, right. I don't know. I feel like those are the two games that I think need a good bit of space from each other.
Yeah, I don't. Here's my thing. We know that there's a new Gears game out there.
Yeah. Prequel.
Is it me, or does this feel like we are about to blow our entire load in 2025? Because let me back up a step. Games take how long to develop now?
I mean, the big ones, 5
to 6 years, yeah. Right? Like 5, almost probably minimum 5.
Minimum 5, probably.
Right? Okay, so let's look at the screen right now. Obviously, we know Call of Duty's fine. They're going to be fine. And we know the team behind Diablo, they are just going to be working on nothing but Diablo for the next few years. Like, that's just, Diablo has a massive time between the two. Like, they're just going to keep doing that. So we've got Machine Games right there. There's no way Machine Games drops another game in 5 years.
Correct.
Right? So 2029, probably next year.
Yeah.
Let's say all of these studios have 5 years. 2029 will be the next time we have a new Machine Games. We know for a fact we're not getting a new traditional Bethesda game until outside of any DLC for Starfield.
Right.
So probably 2030.
Probably, yeah, with Elder Scrolls 6 is the next game.
So they're blocked off. Then you also have the team behind Avowed, whose name is escaping me.
Obsidian.
Right now. Obsidian. Another game that's going to be coming out. The next game they will have will be 2030.
Yeah, the next big game. I bet they'll have like their smaller arm that did Pentiment. They're probably working on another small thing, but that's a different conversation.
Right. That's another. And so you're looking at like, these are the big devs that Xbox just spent a ludicrous amount of money on. And like, if you dump, and I feel like this is a part of the problem with what happened with COVID, with pushing everything back, is a lot of these games that probably could have dropped have just been shifted and everything's now kind of condensing.
Sure.
And part of me also wonders if the reason why PlayStation hasn't had a dog shit, like PlayStation has had a very, very, very light year.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can't even think of a game that PlayStation released this year outside of Rise of Ronin. And that's not even a first party studio. What else did they make this year?
Well, they're about to do next month. They're doing Astrobot, and then we're getting Lego Horizon. Do we have a date for that actually?
Yeah, I think it's
this year, right?
Yeah, it's in November now, I think.
But nothing else is jumping to mind that's been Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
There we go. Okay. But still still no first party games. Which makes me wonder if like this isn't just a product of like that build up and then like everything dumps, but because we couldn't get it all out, we still haven't been able to really start heavy lifting on anything else. And now I wonder, like, what the fuck does Xbox's 2026 look like outside of potentially a Gears of War game?
We'll probably get Blade in 2026, I would think.
Do we even want to hedge any bets that that's going to be good?
I think it can be because it's the good Arcane studio.
The other studio was good.
Well, yeah, but they did a game that they've like a style of game they've literally never done before.
We know, Patrick, we know nothing about the Blade game. We don't know if that's going to be the same story there. They have learned lessons, but then that makes me wonder, like, okay, so we get Blade, but then like, as we start building up, like until 2030, it just kind of seems.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen, Cayman?
What?
In 2026, they're going to buy another studio and publish their games for 2026.
That's actually probably like, this is, I think, what fucking sucks about Xbox. I know we bitched about this a lot, but like, it really does irritate me. That's like, when you have infinite money, you can just continue to do shit like this and it benefits no one.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't drive competition. If anything, you're eliminating competition from the field.
Sure. Because then you go and fucking close shit down.
And it's like, I don't know, man. I
just remembered, like, I was just thinking through studios. We're not getting a Tango Gameworks game because they fucking closed them.
They closed. We're not going to get another Evil Within. You know,
what a win that could have been. A new evil within in 2027.
Dude, I mean, I'm just like looking at this, I'm like, yeah, this is exciting. 2025 should shape up to be a banger of a year.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if Fable gets booted.
I was about to say, what of these 3 2025 games doesn't come out in 2025?
Right.
Probably Fable.
I feel like the one, and you're probably going to be like, hey, man, what are you talking about here? But like, I feel like if we want to like pump the brakes on anything, South of Midnight might be the one we need to pump the brakes on.
Maybe.
It looked really cool, and I want to play it. But this is one of those games where I'm like, this is not a game that Xbox, I feel like, is like really. This game's going to have to do so fucking well.
Like, famously, you hate new IP. You only like franchises.
You're right. I only like franchises, Patrick.
Yeah. You never want anyone to take a chance on a new IP.
No, I love it. But what my concern is with South of Midnight is like, since it's not a typical type of game, and Xbox historically gives it one shot and then you're fucked. I do worry in today's climate that if this doesn't do well and doesn't like really wow everyone,
sure,
then we might lose Double Fine. And you know what? Here's the thing, Patrick, that might actually be a good thing, because then we can just get a new version of Double Fine that's not beholden to corporate bullshit.
Well,
which they have been so good at.
Isn't South of Midnight. I don't know if that's the connection you're making, but
oh wait, Double Fine's not? I thought
no,
Double
South
Fine
of Midnight is Compulsion Games. They're the people that did We Happy Few and Contrast way back at the start of
now
PS4.
I have even more concern for South of Midnight being successful, because We Happy Few was one that looked amazing, and then when you played it, you're like, this game fucking blows.
Yeah, it had its audience, but it did not work for me. That's for certain.
It definitely did not work for, I think, most of the people that played it, myself included.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to like that game.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know, Pat. I mean, what do you think? I think I don't think there's a world, and I think that they're going to be bad. It's an uphill battle. I think we're trying to release Indiana Jones right now, and I think 2025 is shaping up to be a gangbuster, but also could be wiping the slate clean.
Yeah.
And giving us another lull period that Xbox has been struggling with, trying to keep some sort of productivity going.
Yeah. I also wonder, as like a final thought too, of like the thought process. We mentioned it briefly earlier. That this has been a down year for PlayStation, the first in recent memory.
Right.
I wonder if they're like, we expect PlayStation to have a stacked 2025, even though we don't really know what would come out. We hope we get a Ghost of Tsushima. We hope we get like something else from their like maybe we see the Bend game. I don't know, but like there's no huge plans that we are really super aware of for 2025. But I wonder if they're like, we have the runway, as it were, to save a little bit of our big hitters for next year in the chance that PlayStation comes out swinging in 2025. We start the year with Avowed. Maybe we also start it with Indiana Jones. Later in the year, we get either a South of Midnight or a Doom or a Fable, maybe a second one, and then the third one is probably not coming. But like that, that's a pretty hefty 2025 from Xbox Game Studios if they deliver and if they actually come out. Especially like I feel like Doom is probably the safest of those games to be a hit when it comes out.
Question. If Indiana Jones gets delayed, what did Xbox release this year?
Was Diablo 4 wasn't this year, right? That was last year. I don't know that Dungeons of Hinterberg counts. I don't think that was an Xbox Game Studios game. I think they just like bought the rights for it to be exclusive at launch. Let's see. Our chat's popping up. Maybe is Coggy Boy helping? Oh, they did Hellblade this year. You goons. He calls us goons.
I mean, how long? Hold on. I'm just gonna put Cognitive on blast right now.
Let's go.
Outside of your video, Cog, did anyone else talk about that game after it came out?
It was a metaphorical wet fart for sure. People did not really care about that game in the grand scheme. Like it didn't turn the world over like they probably had hoped. Let's see, 2024 Xbox exclusives. Let's see if we're forgetting something big outside of Hellblade. I mean, later oh yeah, it's kind of, is it weird? Is it not weird to me or to you that Stalker is not on this graphic? Is that not Xbox Game Studios? That's Xbox Game Studios, right? That's odd to me, I think.
Patrick?
I
don't know.
Let's see. Stalker 2.
Did Xbox buy Compulsion?
Well, so that's not Compulsion. Compulsion is the South of Midnight people.
No, I know. Did Xbox buy?
Oh, yes. I believe that is an Xbox game studio.
Okay.
Let's see. GSC Game World is a Ukrainian video game company. Actually, let me just do this. Does Xbox own GSC games? That'd probably be easier. Microsoft has funded and published multiple third-party titles. Wait, no, that's irrelevant actually. At a quick glance, it doesn't seem like they are owned by Xbox, which would then make sense for them not being on. But it's and the reason, like, it doesn't immediately pop up as them being an Xbox game studio, so they must not be, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, it says announced first party Xbox games, so that would make sense. Yeah.
Okay, that makes me feel better because it's like, wait a second.
Honestly, I think at that point, the only game that came out this year for PlayStation that would be first party would be the Horizon Lego game, maybe
first party, and then Astrobot.
Astrobot.
But outside of that, yeah, I don't think we got any other first party games. But yeah, so looking at the 2024 list, we'll get Microsoft Flight Simulator, The Age of Mythology, Ara, like those games. So, nothing big there. 33 Immortals is either out or coming later this year. Not a big thing. Arc 2 supposedly, but I don't think that's an Xbox Game Studios game. So yeah, I guess the answer will be basically just Flight Simulator in terms of.
And when did they hold on? When did they bump Stalker to? November, right?
November
when?
It's like mid-November, I think. Let's see.
Ooh, no fucking way we're getting Indiana Jones this year.
Yeah, no way.
No fucking way.
November 20th.
This is going to be a mid-February or mid-January game, and it's going to give basically a month of breathing room for Avowed to drop.
Yeah, there's no way. For sure. That's a great point about Stalker. And still weird that it's not here. Cash Crow in the chat. What's up, Cash? How are you doing? What do y'all think about the state of Xbox with the rest of this year with having no Avowed, and let's be honest, likely no Indiana Jones. This whole top area, not interesting. This is going to be big for people, just not me. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, let us know. Either write in mail@spotlightgames.net or send us over a little DM on Instagram or Twitter. Cash says Maury called it that Avowed would be delayed. That Maury, I tell you what, he's got a good head on his shoulders.
He does indeed. He's a good boy.
Indeed. He's a good boy. Some say best boy.
Some say best boy.
Cayman, that's our show.
It was indeed
a jam-packed show. At a thick 80 minutes almost. But I'm ready to get the fuck out of here, Cayman. So tell the folks at home where they can follow you if they're interested.
All right. You can follow the Dumpster Boy at the Dumpster Boy on Twitter.
Boom. You can follow me at Patrick Schwag on Twitter, or you can follow the pod at Spot Games Pod on Twitter. Everywhere else, Spotlight Games Pod. That's Instagram, TikTok, right here on Twitch and YouTube. Go give Gamer Actual a follow while you're here with Cash Crow in the chat. We'll be back. Well, we might be back next week. Cayman and I need to figure that out because since, like I said earlier, I am out of town. But we're gonna see what happens. But thanks for being here.